headed down the hill that I head down a zillion times to go anywhere out of where I live in Redmond. It's a nice trip. Anyway, cut through Redmond, and eventually I was heading down across the various paths of Redmond. Here I cut around a U-turn to get onto the main Sammamish Trail and eventually head over and get to the 520 Trail. So there's the old rail bridge that's also a trail. And then here, rather interesting tunnel, the 40th Street Underpass. This is where there's a crazy intersection above at the Microsoft campus where the light rail is eventually going to end and a bunch of other stuff. It's pretty cool. It's got like a decoration inside with the tile and everything. And there's me cutting back out into the crazy sun, the bright sun. And there's the bus stop on this side of the road. And on the other side of the road is the light rail station and the other bus stop. Eventually that'll be all built out. Then here up at 148th Street, I get to this crazy crossing. And as always, there's a ton of traffic waiting to get through the intersection because this is an absolute shit intersection. And on top of that, they put this kind of weird two-way bike intersection in the intersection. And this is a whole bunch of riders out today, probably because of the nice weather. I'm not used to that many people being there. There's usually me and maybe one other person waiting to cross the street or some random pedestrians waiting to cross in different directions. It's always a mess, whatever it is. And here I am. Someone was drafting behind me, and they cut out beside me there, and we just rode beside each other for a while. We're not really pedaling that much. We were just going with the momentum. And eventually, I pulled up to the corner of the location where there is some amazing new bike infrastructure. And there is one of the cohort that I'm meeting up with right in front of me now. They were coming the other direction of the intersection and cut through, and I cut a right on red just as they came through the intersection. And as you can see, there's excellent bike infrastructure heading down that street. Fully separated, dedicated bikeway path. Then we just headed over here, cut into the sidewalk, and then met in this, I guess, green space. I'm assuming that all of this is private property, but it looks like a public park. There's a brewery over here. It's a really cool area. I'll talk a little bit more about it later in a subsequent part of this series of the meetup.
I like your 360 mount. That's not a specific to the thing, right? You just did it.
Yeah, I just did it. I literally just did it yesterday, and you can see where I have the GoPro mount there too.
So speaking of the GoPro mount and the other mount, this is them. That's the GoPro mount right there. So it's kind of hard to see. But then below that, I have this other mount with two clamps, right? And what it is, I use the Insta360 selfie stick, which is like the invisible selfie stick as they market it. And it goes into the one clamp and sits up about 3 feet or 4 feet or however far I raise it. The GoPro one, as you can see that I just did, you can like rotate it a little bit to change that angle. And that way I can get a low wheel angle, low street angle with the GoPro, or I can put the Insta360 into this clamp. And it's just clamps on both ends and then ball joint connected. So as you can see, we met up, hung out for a while there in the public space, talk shop, talk bikes, cargo bikes or whatever. This is the crew that met up, of course, not including me because I'm behind the camera there. And from here we headed out from, I guess this is the Spring District, into Bellevue. Heading over the interstate here. Pretty wide sidewalk, made it pretty easy to get into town and over to 108th. And as you can see, the majority of our time so far is spent solely sitting at intersections waiting for lights. That's one thing I've always noticed about Seattle, Bellevue, etc. The light timing is absolutely horrible. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for pedestrians, cyclists, or motorists. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, we headed in. You could see quite a bit of construction going on in that part of the street. The protected bike lane is still there, sort of amidst all the mess. Then we got toward the end of 108th downtown, cut to the right, and headed into, I believe it's called Belle Bakery or something like that. cut a U-turn, popped in there, and then commenced to hang out, have a bunch of conversations. Everybody got parked after a minute. There was a little bit of confusion about where to put this many cycles, and especially where to put the cargo bikes, because as you might imagine, they're a little bigger, so they don't just fit simply on a rack, but also they don't particularly need to be on a rack. And with that, I picked up some bakery items, had a bunch more conversations. Really good time, great conversations. Loved hanging out with the crew. And then basically wrapped up the meetup and headed out.